Naruto had been sent 20 years back into the Konoha of the past. In the post-Hokage era, after a massive Otsutsuki invasion had destroyed the entire ninja world, everything had collapsed. Sasuke died protecting Boruto. Kawaki didn't survive either. But before dying, he released Naruto, who had long been sealed inside Demon. Years later, when Boruto finally found Naruto, he felt like he was staring at the last hope of the ninja world. Using the final remnants of his chakra, he activated a forbidden Rinnegan technique and sent Naruto's soul into a point somewhere in the past. Boruto died soon after, his chakra completely depleted. When Naruto opened his eyes again, he found himself standing in a dark forest. A scroll in his hands, the scroll of seals from Konoha. In front of him, Iruka lay injured on the ground while Mizuki was preparing to attack him. Naruto was confused, but the reality of the scene made it clear, this wasn't a dream. Boruto had used his life to send him back to the night he stole the scroll of seals. As Naruto remembered Boruto, tears streamed down his face. Mizuki hurled a Fuma shuriken at Iruka, but in an instant Naruto jumped in front of his teacher. He caught Mizuki's arm with his left hand and fired a powerful Rasengan with his right that slammed into Mizuki's chest. Iruka stared wide-eyed at the swirling blue chakra sphere. Even the third Hokage, Hiruzen, watching through his crystal ball, was stunned. Naruto already knew Minato's Rasengan. Morning sunlight shone across Naruto's face. Iruka watched him from behind, lost in thought. The same boy who was once the weakest in class, now stood as a dependable warrior. He didn't know what happened to Naruto, but for the first time, he genuinely believed Naruto could become Hokage. Though Naruto had lived this moment before, his heart felt heavier this time. Thanks to Boruto, he had been reborn, given a second chance to stop the catastrophic future. After leaving Iruka, Naruto walked home alone, overwhelmed by emotion. Touching his stomach, the 8 trigram seal glowed faintly. He appeared inside the Ninetales seal space. Kurama sensed him and angrily slammed his claws through the cage, but Naruto didn't move. Instead, he smiled. "Your eyes are still the same. Kurama." Kurama's eyes widened. "How do you know that name?" Naruto didn't answer. He simply extended his hand. "If you want the truth, then bump fists with me." Kurama stared for a long moment, then silence fell. A second later, a human and a beast touched fists, just like they once did many years in the future. Their memories, battles, Baryon mode, shadow clones, Otsutsuki fights, everything flowed between them. After seeing the truth, Kurama looked at Naruto with a strangely conflicted expression. He couldn't believe the Sage of Six Paths prophecy was real, that he, a tailed beast, would one day sacrifice himself for a human. "After all these years, were you still waiting for me?" Kurama asked quietly. Naruto nodded. "Yes, but in the end, I couldn't see you again." Seeing a healthy Kurama again brought him immense relief. Kurama snorted, "That was the future me who accepted you. Not me." Naruto grinned. "Then I'll earn your trust all over again." Laughter finally echoed inside the seal. Meanwhile, at Mount Myoboku, the great toad sage suddenly awoke. He summoned Shima to call Jiraiya. He had an important announcement. Naruto tried activating Sage mode, but Kurama's chakra, leaking through the sealed gate, was only enough for a partial spirit form, not enough for future-level threats but more than enough for present-day Konoha. The Otsutsuki relied heavily on taijutsu, so Naruto decided he would strengthen his own taijutsu to avoid ever losing Kurama again. Kurama sensed Naruto's anxiety and told him not to rush, because now they had knowledge of that enemy in advance. With Kurama by his side, Naruto felt he could change everything. Star back to academy days. During class placement, Naruto noticed Hinata sitting in a corner and waved. She blushed and lowered her head. Knowing his wife's shy nature from the future, Naruto couldn't help teasing her lightly. Then his eyes shifted to Sasuke. Wife and rival, both in the same room. Feels like old times. Next was Kakashi's bell test. Kakashi, already informed by the third that Naruto could use Rasengan, kept a close eye on him. Sakura and Sasuke hid immediately, but Naruto stayed in plain sight. He wanted to fight openly. His taijutsu shocked Kakashi. He was far more skilled than any academy graduate should be. Eventually, Kakashi trapped him in Earth-style, headhunter jutsu. But Naruto only smirked and vanished in smoke. A shadow clone. Sasuke watched from the bushes, fists clenched. That idiot, how did he get so strong? Naruto regrouped with Sasuke and Sakura and insisted on teamwork. They executed a plan perfectly. Sasuke attacked, Naruto disguised himself as a shuriken, and Sakura transformed midair to knock Kakashi out, just like the Kagaya battle years later. They passed the test. Kakashi smiled. These are the three I've been waiting for. Star Land of Waves arc, but change. Naruto visited Kurama again for comfort, something he never had in his original childhood. Team 7 soon received the Tazuna escort mission. Naruto remembered Haku and Zabuza, the ones who shaped his early growth. This time, he swore to save them both. When the mist surrounded them, Naruto used sage sensing to detect Zabuza. He didn't warn anyone, he wanted Sasuke to grow. The fight played out as before. Zabuza trapped Kakashi, and the water clone charged the team. Naruto stopped it with dozens of shadow clones and forced Sasuke to use fire style alongside him, boosting Sasuke's flames with his own chakra. Even Kakashi was stunned. This kid manipulates chakra flow like an Uchiha. Haku rescued Zabuza again, and later, Naruto revived Kakashi's stamina using chakra-linked knowledge from his future life. Team 7 realized Naruto was no longer the weakest student, they felt it clearly. Under Naruto's guidance, Sasuke quickly mastered tree climbing and water walking. The final confrontation began. Naruto created thousands of clones to shatter Haku's ice mirrors, then pretended to kill Haku, to awaken Zabuza's true heart. Both Haku and Zabuza survived this time and eventually settled in the Land of Waves. Star Chunin exams, new encounters. Back in Konoha, Kakashi reported everything to the third. Though worried, Hiruzen was happy. Naruto, raised in darkness, still shone like the sun. On the way to the exams, Naruto met Gaara. Overwhelmed with joy, he hugged him, forgetting that this Gaara didn't know him yet. The touch transported Naruto into Shukaku's mental realm. Only someone recognized by a tailed beast could enter. Kurama and Shukaku bickered as always, then Shukaku demanded answers. Naruto explained he needed a portion of every tailed beast's chakra to attain 6-path sage mode. Shukaku refused, until Naruto fist bumped him. All of Naruto's past life memories flowed through him. Recognizing the sage's prophecy, Shukaku finally agreed and granted Naruto some of his chakra. Back in the real world, Gaara clutched his head in pain. Kankuro accused Naruto of harming him, but Gaara told him to stay quiet. Naruto breezed through the written exam and entered the Forest of Death, where he once again crossed paths with Orochimaru, fully aware of his intentions toward Sasuke. This time he wanted to stop Orochimaru. Naruto warned Sakura and Sasuke to stay alert. This man was more powerful than the third Hokage. Hearing that, both of them sank into fear. Suddenly Orochimaru launched a wind-style attack straight at them. Naruto was already ready. He formed hand seals and erected dozens of earth-style walls to counter it. Excited, Orochimaru stuck out his snake-like tongue and spit out a gigantic serpent to attack. Naruto immediately grabbed Sasuke and Sakura and leapt back. He formed hand seals again and activated Earth-style, Swamp of the Underworld. The sudden marsh swallowed the giant snake. Seeing Naruto's astonishing stance, Orochimaru couldn't hide his excitement. So this is Kurama's Jinchuriki. Interesting. He lay on the ground and activated the summoning 10,000 snakes formation. Hundreds of thousands of snakes poured from his mouth toward the three of them. Naruto signaled Sasuke to use fire style while he himself used wind style. The winds fanned the flames into a roaring sea that incinerated the rushing snakes. Orochimaru, a little surprised, muttered that even a genin could perform combined ninjutsu. The power of a Jinchuriki and an Uchiha was truly impressive. His neck suddenly elongated. Two fangs sank into Naruto's throat. Orochimaru planned to bind Naruto's body with the power of the curse mark. Naruto closed his eyes and centered himself, entering Sage mode. Pain flashed across Orochimaru's face. Naruto had channeled Sage Chakra back into Orochimaru by using the connection between them. Powerless, Orochimaru was forced out of his current vessel. The violent tremor drew the examiner's attention beyond the field. An intense pain flared in Enko's curse mark. A grim premonition overcame her. She told Guy and Kakashi to take her into the forest, and then Orochimaru bit off his finger and activated a summoning. Manda's colossal form appeared in a cloud of smoke. Naruto had not yet signed a summoning contract, so facing Manda would be no easy task. The giant snake sneered at Orochimaru for calling him for such a small matter. Orochimaru replied wickedly that the opponent was no ordinary genin. Naruto motioned to Kurama to give more chakra. Kurama was ready and poured nearly all his reserve chakra into Naruto. Because Minato's seal was so strong, Kurama could only give a limited amount, but it was enough to deal with this irritable snake. Naruto signaled Sasuke and Sakura to fall back. Now he would hit the giant snake with everything he had. Sasuke, moved by Naruto's determined eyes, felt some of his inner fear ebb and finally withdrew with Sakura, thinking to himself how powerful Naruto had become. Manda lunged at Naruto like a coiling snake. Naruto sprang up, formed hand seals, and created thousands of shadow clones. Each clone formed its own giant Rasengan, and together they struck Manda's massive body. Manda's hard armor shattered under the onslaught of Senjutsu, and at last he collapsed, unable to move. Kurama felt a strange, inward tickle. Memories of chakra tug-of-war with Naruto from a previous life flashed through his mind. Manda fell to the ground, roared helplessly, and died. Sakura screamed, "Naruto, you were amazing." But Sasuke ground his teeth. How could that loser be so strong? Naruto stepped out of half-sage mode, exhausted. The technique had drained most of the chakra Kurama had lent him. Suddenly Orochimaru's voice echoed in the air. "Don't forget, I'm still here." A long blade erupted from the ground and impaled Naruto's chest, driving him toward the edge of the exam field. Naruto planted his feet and held the blade, but Orochimaru pushed harder and could not pierce Naruto's skin. Seeing the dark circles beneath Naruto's eyes, Orochimaru couldn't help but recall his old friend Jiraiya. Naruto smiled, feeling lucky. He had left a shadow clone at home to gather natural energy. In that moment of crisis he dissolved that clone and immediately activated Sage Mode. He grabbed the sword and hurled it aside. Sensing the danger, Orochimaru used snake transformation again, spitting out a new body and lying on the ground, helpless. Sasuke gathered a Chidori copied from Kakashi with his Sharingan and charged toward Orochimaru. But as he approached, Orochimaru's neck lengthened and he bit Sasuke's neck, imprinting a heavenly curse mark on him. Sasuke screamed in pain and the Chidori in his hand fizzled because his chakra had become unstable. Naruto gasped in helplessness. He couldn't stop Orochimaru from giving Sasuke the curse mark. He thought, Orochimaru truly is powerful. At that moment the examiners finally arrived. They all stared at Orochimaru. Satisfied that his goal was achieved, Orochimaru bowed maliciously, then vanished into the ground. Sakura cried as she embraced the unconscious Sasuke. No one could believe these genin had fought such a massive battle with Orochimaru. Seeing Manda's enormous corpse, they were even more astonished. Naruto approached and saluted Kakashi. Kakashi, who had been about to ask them to leave the exam, changed his mind when he saw Naruto. Naruto told Sakura not to worry. Sasuke was just unconscious, and the curse mark on his neck wasn't entirely bad for him. Kakashi watched Naruto's calm, capable demeanor and fell into deep thought. He glimpsed a faint image of Minato. The third Hokage had watched the whole fight through his crystal ball. Orochimaru's return to the village was surely part of a scheme. He ordered Anbu to keep strict vigilance across the village so they could prepare for any soon-coming threat. After Naruto drove Orochimaru off, the three of them quickly passed the second stage of the exam. The preliminary rounds for the third stage were next. The first matchup was Neji vs Tenten. Naruto noticed the match list differed from his previous life and scratched his head. History was unknowingly changing, which was good, because Hinata would be spared the fate she once faced. Neji won his match outright. The next bout listed Naruto vs Hinata. Naruto nearly choked. This butterfly effect was massive. He felt a pang of sadness as he entered the ring. Hinata never imagined she would have to fight the Naruto she had feelings for. Her face flushed and she didn't know what to do. Neji mocked her, taunting that the Hyuga princess was unfit to be a ninja. Naruto looked at Neji. He still felt great affection for him. In his last life Neji had died saving Naruto. But this Neji had not yet given Naruto the talk no jutsu, he was harsh. Seeing Hinata falter, Naruto shouted and urged her to come down and fight him. This time he promised not to use multiple shadow clones. Hearing Naruto's voice, Hinata finally found courage. She took a fighting stance and asked Naruto for guidance. Throughout the fight Naruto encouraged Hinata, pushing her beyond her limits, and she performed the 8 trigrams 64 palms. She not only bested Naruto emotionally, she won the match. After the preliminary round, Kakashi applied an evil sealing method to Sasuke's curse mark. Naruto sensed with Sage Mode and discovered Orochimaru was indeed hiding behind a pillar as in his previous life. Orochimaru, impressed by Naruto's sharpness, complimented Kakashi for learning such sealing jutsu, though he sneered that the search for Sasuke's power would ultimately lead the boy to him. Saying this, he vanished into the air. There was 1 month before the official selection. Naruto could not contain his joy. His master Jiraiya would arrive soon. He camped outside the bathhouse for days until a research-ready Jiraiya finally came. Naruto ran up and hugged him tightly without a word. Jiraiya, who had seen much, had never met anyone who barreled into his arms like that. Naruto clung to him like a drill, gripping his strong chest and spinning him around in excitement. Jiraiya stood bewildered. What's gotten into this kid? Jiraiya directly asked how long Naruto had known him. Naruto wiped his tears and said, "For a long time. During the days you were gone I endured a lot. At one point I thought I couldn't go on. I'm thankful Iruka-sensei said you'd come see me. With my friend's support I didn't give up and chased my dream. But then the heavens fell and changed the world again. I'm so tired and I miss you." Naruto poured out his feelings until he fell asleep. Jiraiya accepted the emotion. If he'd known how much Naruto needed him, he would have been glad. Gently, he laid the sleeping boy on the ground and removed Naruto's outer clothes. The chakra sealing pattern appeared on Naruto's body. Seeing Minato's 8 trigrams seal protecting the child, Jiraiya remembered Minato's gentleness. The scene shifted. Kurama's chakra was leaking from the seal and pulled Naruto's mental form into Kurama's mental space. The Great Fox's body loomed before Jiraiya. Even Jiraiya, powerful as he was, stepped back. Kurama had already seen Naruto's memories and naturally recognized how important Jiraiya was to Naruto's heart. Kurama wanted Jiraiya there so he could quickly identify Naruto. After some conversation, Kurama asked Jiraiya to teach Naruto well and stay by his side. Jiraiya was deeply moved. The very creature everyone feared was asking him for help on a child's behalf. Kurama explained that the water pooled beneath Naruto's feet were the tears he'd shed all his life, and the darkness and damp atmosphere around him reflected how others had looked upon him. Everything Jiraiya felt there was the mirror of Naruto's heart. Once Jiraiya vowed to teach Naruto properly, Kurama withdrew his mental presence. Naruto woke to see his master beside him and was overwhelmed. Jiraiya, seeing Naruto's mature, determined eyes, decided to take him as a pupil and first teach him summoning jutsu. Naruto easily signed the summoning contract scroll with Mount Myoboku. Just as Jiraiya was about to show the hand seals, Naruto slammed his palm to the ground, and when the white smoke of the summoning cleared, the great toad sage appeared. Jiraiya's jaw dropped. He dropped to his knees and saluted the sage. The great toad smiled faintly and told Jiraiya to step aside, then looked at Naruto and said, "You came back through that hole in time, didn't you?" Naruto's eyes suddenly narrowed. The toad sage must have known already. The toad said that because Naruto returned from the future and changed history, his future in this life would change too. The Otsutsuki invasion could happen earlier or later. Naruto felt the heavy responsibility pressed down on his shoulders. Now every moment counted to become stronger. After taking leave of the sage, Naruto called Jiraiya back and asked for the key to Kurama's seal. Jiraiya, understanding Naruto and Kurama's unusual relationship, called Gameken and Fukusaku and activated Sage Mode to protect Naruto from being consumed by negative hatred when Kurama was unsealed. Naruto saw a form of his master he had never seen before. As Naruto was about to tear the seal band, a yellow flash stopped him. His dad had arrived. Minato stood there. Naruto smiled. "Father, it's been a long time." Minato was surprised. Kurama impatiently said they'd talk later and insisted on being released first. Minato looked at Kurama, astonished. Is that his name? Seeing the seal pattern on Naruto's arm, Minato became completely calm. It seemed Jiraiya had allowed the opening of the seal. The lock turned and slowly the seal opened. Kurama shattered the cage and roared with joy. Naruto formed a half-virtual body behind him. Kurama touched the illusion and urged Naruto to take chakra with his will. Minato was stunned. He couldn't believe this fearsome Kurama looked almost docile. The child's development exceeded Minato's expectations. There were many questions on Minato's mind. Suddenly dozens of thick iron chains tightly bound Kurama. Kushina emerged from Naruto's body and told Kurama to calm down. Naruto smiled with happiness. His mother had arrived. Kurama roared weakly and helplessly. Doesn't this Kushina understand the situation? My chakra has emptied and she still restrains me? Minato bowed apologetically to Kurama. Naruto praised his mother. How strong she was. She quickly brought Kurama under control. Kushina turned and praised Naruto for recognizing her immediately. He truly was theirs, Minato's and hers. When Kushina saw Minato at Naruto's side, she forgot to pull the chains and ran forward, hugging Minato tightly and jumping with joy. After so many years, the family finally had a small moment of reunion. Kurama was utterly dumbstruck seeing Naruto's family together like that. When Minato and Kushina learned the truth, they angrily apologized to Kurama. But Kurama huffed and snapped that humans never fully understood situations. Naruto stepped between them and soothed things, telling his parents, "You're just worried about me." The family hadn't been reunited long before Naruto noticed Minato and Kushina's bodies beginning to glow. Signs that they were about to disappear. Minato urged Kushina to say anything she needed to say to Naruto quickly. In a panic, Kushina hugged Naruto and, through tears, repeated the words she had once told him before dying, apologizing for making him a Jinchuriki. Naruto's eyes filled with tears. "You don't need to apologize," he said. "Being a Jinchuriki isn't a bad thing. Even before I became a Jinchuriki, my body was full of my parents' love. I'm happy." Minato felt proud and praised Naruto, telling him he had truly become an amazing young man. Still, this was farewell. Minato and Kushina were not of this world anymore. Naruto tried to look energetic so his parents wouldn't worry. His voice faltered as he refused to look as they slowly began to fade away. Just as Minato and Kushina's spirits rose, Kurama suddenly cried out. He hadn't yet received thanks. With that, Kurama pulled the vanishing Minato and Kushina back into a chakra sphere Naruto had formed. The two nearly vanished bodies became solid again. Kushina and Naruto gasped in astonishment. Kurama complained that, since Minato and Kushina were at least his Jinchuriki's family, it would be embarrassing for them to vanish because of some chakra leak. Since they had sealed him in their son's body, he insisted they remain and help him. Naruto dropped his grief instantly and, excited, praised Kurama for doing that. Kurama, annoyed, explained he was essentially an aggregation of chakra and giving chakra to others was easy for him. He hadn't wanted to, but seeing Naruto's sad face reminded him of the moment Naruto had said goodbye after 6 paths mode in the other life. Even if Kurama's memory body was just chakra, the image of a mother staying with her child in the future moved Kushina to tears. Kushina and Minato embraced Naruto and repeatedly thanked Kurama. Kurama huffed, "Don't get too happy. Live with this embarrassment and help Naruto." Then Kurama looked at Naruto. The chakra bridge was complete. "It's time we all show our power." Naruto shouted, "Let's go," and his whole body flashed into a magnificent golden form. He had become the perfect Jinchuriki 4 years earlier than in his previous life. The scene snapped back to the real world. Jiraiya stared, stunned. This form was more powerful than anyone he'd seen. At Ichiraku Ramen, Dochi went suddenly serious, glancing at his boiling soup. Had someone forgotten salt? The moment Naruto's golden form manifested, every ninja inside Konoha's barrier detected it. The sensor ninjas went on high alert and were ordered to immediately summon the third Hokage. Anbu reported in a panic. A sun-like chakra was shining at the western waterfall. Kurama's Jinchuriki, Naruto, was the source. It looked like Kurama's seal had broken. The third Hokage removed his robes, donned his battle attire, and ordered all Anbu to mobilize. There must be no repeat of the tragedy from 12 years ago. Guilt and remorse filled the third Hokage's heart, and he swore he would bring Naruto back at any cost. Naruto sensed dozens of ninjas rushing toward him. In moments, the third Hokage arrived at the battlefield at top speed. Misrecognizing Naruto at first, the third angrily summoned Enma and transformed him into a staff to subdue Naruto. Naruto wanted to bow, but the enlarged staff shoved him back. Jiraiya was also surprised by the third's sudden attack. Jiraiya explained that Naruto was a perfect Jinchuriki, not an outbursting Kurama, and the third, embarrassed, ordered his men to find Naruto and bring him back. Jiraiya then warned everyone present not to spread news of Naruto's return even if Danzo and the Elder Council asked. Even when Danzo and the elders inquired, the third followed Jiraiya's instructions and the crowd withdrew. Jiraiya apologized to Naruto on behalf of the third and, by way of recompense, offered to teach him an A-rank jutsu. Naruto felt an ominous twinge. Was Jiraiya offering to teach the Rasengan? As Naruto suspected, Jiraiya smiled and told him not to rush, reveal the truth when he was ready. To celebrate Naruto's perfect Jinchuriki status, Jiraiya fed him until he couldn't eat anymore. That night, with Naruto's help, Hayate, the boy who had been targeted by the others, was saved. The Chunin exam finals were approaching. Naruto would soon face Neji. Had Orochimaru succeeded in killing the third Hokage? For now, Naruto's next rival remained Neji. He staged a match using a shadow clone that mirrored the previous life. His main goal was still to break Neji free from his own fate with Tak no Jutsu. After the drama, Naruto won by a decisive strike, and Neji finally freed himself from his mental barriers. Nearby, Genma was secretly astonished. He'd realized the skilled fighter who'd just beaten Neji was only Naruto's shadow clone. The third Hokage scanned the exam grounds. After watching the match, he wept, saying Naruto had more than strength. Naruto knew Orochimaru, the man beside Danzo, was already starting his scheme. Naruto positioned himself not too far from, and not too close to, the third Hokage, ready for whatever would begin. Suddenly, Sasuke used Chidori to strike Gaara. Inside Gaara, the tailed beast's power ramped up, and the signal for Konoha's destruction began. Hidden Sound and Sand ninjas launched their attack. In the smoke, Orochimaru placed a kunai at the third Hokage's throat and ordered his men to activate a 4 Violet Flames battle array to separate them. The third felt despair. His favorite student had reached this point. Naruto saw the barrier and the hand seals Orochimaru had made. Without question, they were Edo Tensei seals. When 3 coffins rose from the ground, the third tried to stop the third coffin but failed. As the lid opened, 2 great men from the Age of War emerged. Hashirama and Tobirama. And the third proved to be Rin, the former Three Tails Jinchuriki. The barrier rapidly turned the area into a forest. Facing Hashirama and Tobirama together, the third was forced to retreat. Rin suddenly covered the Three Tails beast form and charged at the third, slicing off one of his arms. The third endured the pain and blasted Rin away with fire style. Orochimaru then ordered Tobirama to use water-saving wave. It seemed the third might split in two. Naruto moved with near-instant speed and saved the third Hokage. Breaking the barrier took time, but Naruto arrived just in time. The presence of other cage-level people made them all look at Naruto. The third clutched his severed arm and roared at Naruto to get away quickly. Naruto calmed him, "Don't worry. I'll handle the rest." Orochimaru stuck out his snake tongue, ready to test whether Naruto or Sasuke had progressed more. Edo Tensei Jinchuriki lunged at Naruto. Naruto manifested a chakra hand from his back and caught it precisely. Then he called Shukaku from mental space to lend power. In the next second, a magnet-release Rasengan formed in his hand. The Edo Jinchuriki froze after colliding with the Rasengan. Its deep red chakra faded and Rin's spirit appeared. She looked at Naruto, smiled, and thanked him, then moved on to the Pure Land. The third Hokage was sweating. Orochimaru then dared to call up more reanimations. He hadn't anticipated the atmosphere Obito's presence would bring. Wood style from the first Hokage rapped toward Naruto while the second created many shadow clones and used water-saving wave to encircle. Naruto praised the second for his skillful use of clones. Though the first and second were powerful, Revived Edo Tensei versions with limited precision were not equal opponents for Naruto. Naruto exploited an opening and activated the Rasen-absorbing sphere. His chakra hand grabbed Hashirama and Tobirama, slammed them onto a Rasengan above his head, and then sealed them with that magnet-release Rasengan. Before vanishing, the first Hokage apologized to the third and the smaller Naruto for troubling them. Tobirama, looking at Naruto, muttered that the voice had sounded like a shadow clone of his, then moved to the Pure Land. Now only Orochimaru remained inside the barrier. Reborn, Naruto had not only saved the third Hokage from Orochimaru but had sealed Hashirama and Tobirama alone. Naruto then formed a Rasen Shuriken with a chakra hand. Orochimaru's eyes gleamed. He instinctively sensed the jutsu's danger and tried to retreat, but Naruto calmly said he wouldn't let him escape. Naruto hurled the Rasen Shuriken. Orochimaru stopped and bit his finger to activate Triple Rashomon, yet the three gates could not block Naruto's shuriken. With a white storm blast, Orochimaru felt genuine danger. He spat himself out and narrowly escaped the vortex. Surviving the storm, Orochimaru grudgingly praised Naruto, rarer than Killer Bee from Kumogakure, and grew more interested in where Naruto's wind would blow next. Naruto already knew Uncle Snake wouldn't be easily killed, so he showed no mercy in his attack. He understood that to oppose future Otsutsuki gods, he might have to rely on some of Orochimaru's techniques. In the end, Orochimaru had no choice but to retreat. Konoha could not be destroyed while Naruto stood there. Naruto elected not to pursue. He first sent the third Hokage to the medical ward, then used sage sensing to locate where Sasuke and Gaara were fighting. He dashed there without a word. If he'd been a moment later, Sasuke could have been seriously hurt. At that moment, even together Sasuke and Sakura couldn't handle Gaara's half-Shukaku form. Sasuke seemed about to be crushed in a sand coffin. Sakura screamed and used her strongest summoning to call Naruto's name. In the next second, a flying Naruto struck Gaara in the face. Seeing Naruto, Sasuke smiled. "You loser, that was slow." Gaara couldn't match Naruto's perfect Jinchuriki in combat and slipped into complete control, surrendering his mind to Shukaku. But he didn't know Shukaku had become Naruto's ally. Naruto extended his fist and told Shukaku to collide with him. After they clashed, both man and beast appeared together in the same mental space. Naruto used Tak no Jutsu on the stunned Gaara. Their shared childhood pain made it easy for them to empathize. In the end, Naruto saved Gaara from his lonely hell. After opening his closed heart, Gaara gradually accepted Kankuro and Temari. Naruto became his first friend as before. Before leaving, Naruto told Gaara to sleep well at night in the future. Shukaku would no longer run wild. A faint smile appeared on Gaara's lips, and, supported by the ninja allies, he departed Konoha. Sasuke and the others showed signs of respect. Naruto had changed even such a hardened person. The next day, on Konoha's high wall, two men wearing hats stood, Itachi and Kisame. Seeing the sorry state of their old home made Itachi slightly emotional. He worried for Sasuke's safety. Honest Kisame noticed the change and joked that Itachi seemed attached to the village despite his coldness. Itachi displayed his 3 Tomo Sharingan and teased that Kisame was cuter when quiet. Tucked away, Tsuchi suddenly remembered he'd forgotten to shut off the shop stove. At that moment Danzo visited the third Hokage. He'd heard the third intended to give the Hokage position to Jiraiya, and he was furious. But the third was resolute. This was his decision, not Danzo's. Danzo threatened and slammed the door in anger, then left. After a while, Jiraiya accepted the invitation and came to the third. True to his free spirit, he naturally declined the offer. As before, Jiraiya refused and suggested bringing Tsunade back to take the Hokage position. That task would fall to him and Naruto. Naruto soon prepared to meet Itachi in the village. After disrupting Orochimaru's plan, Itachi and Kisame had appeared in Konoha just as in the previous life. Naruto found them quickly using sage sensing. He understood Itachi had returned to ensure Sasuke's safety. The pain from Sasuke's past rose in Naruto's mind. This time he intended to do something about it. So Naruto waited alone for Itachi. After a lightning-fast 6-hand seals that overpowered Kakashi, Itachi sought Naruto. Soon there was a knock at the door, and Naruto grew serious. When he opened it, Itachi barred the door and told Naruto to come with him. Seeing Naruto, Sasuke breathed a sigh of relief. This Kurama Jinchuriki looked like a little child who simply used illusions. But Itachi disagreed. Naruto's frog-like eyes surprised him. Itachi warned Kisame not to underestimate their opponent, since Naruto had just broken free of an illusion jutsu. Kisame didn't believe it, but he trusted strength above all. He grabbed his Samahata and prepared to take Naruto away by cutting his legs. In the next instant, Naruto's frog-like jutsu blasted Kisame back so fast that even Itachi couldn't react. Naruto asked, curiously, Sasuke's brother, and the shark guy, "Are you okay in Akatsuki?" Itachi was perplexed and asked where Naruto had learned about Akatsuki. Naruto, of course, didn't reveal his sources. Itachi prepared to check Naruto's shirt and then a Chidori spear pierced his chest. Sasuke had learned Itachi was in Konoha and had come running. Seeing Sasuke, Itachi carefully observed him and admired his three-tomo and lightning-style usage. Sasuke had grown far. But the time wasn't right. Itachi's body split into branches and his real body reappeared as a crow behind Sasuke, ready to strike. Sasuke suddenly activated Chidori Stream. The lightning ran through the air and forced Itachi to pull back, and Itachi praised Sasuke's progress. All of this was due to Naruto's secret guidance after rebirth. Naruto knew all the techniques Sasuke would use in the previous life, but he still lagged far behind Itachi. Itachi made a real effort and pressed Sasuke from all sides. Naruto wanted to intervene, but Sasuke bit down and stopped him. "This is my fight," Sasuke insisted. He wanted to defeat Itachi with his own hands. Itachi grabbed Sasuke's cheek and said he had no interest in the current Sasuke, then showed him 24 hours of clan annihilation through a genjutsu. Naruto was furious seeing Sasuke endure such torture and activated Sage Mode. Sasuke barely rose from the ground. He knew Naruto's intention but prevented intervention. This was the one fight he insisted on fighting himself. Exhausted, Sasuke fainted. Naruto respected Sasuke's choice and retreated from Sage Mode. Jiraiya arrived, quickly summoned the Great Toad Rock, and trapped Itachi. Seeing Jiraiya, Itachi indirectly learned the Akatsuki had targeted Naruto and fled with Kisame using Amaterasu. Jiraiya couldn't believe anyone could escape that jutsu. Naruto explained that it was a black law Amaterasu, something that could burn everything, and he sealed that black flame inside a scroll. Outside, Itachi closed his Sharingan. Sasuke, relieved to be protected, recovered. Naruto cleared the battlefield and decided to take Sasuke to Tsunade. He wanted Sasuke to grow quickly and never again be helpless and despairing. With the experience of his past life, Naruto and the others found Tsunade at once. Naruto wanted to teach Sasuke to awaken his Mangekyo Sharingan earlier than time. Tsunade, angered by Naruto's behavior, resolved to teach him with a smack. Naruto immediately activated Sage Mode and urged her to use her full strength. Startled, Tsunade wondered if this was Kurama's strength. She dropped her proud attitude and lunged, delivering a powerful sky kick. The ground sank beneath them, yet when the dust cleared, Naruto stood laughing. Grandma's strength is still great. Tsunade's eyes glinted. She struck with monstrous power, and Naruto braced, eventually stepping back 10 meters. Tsunade sighed and called an end to the fight. Then, touched, asked why Naruto clung to the name Hokage so fiercely despite his power. Naruto answered firmly, "Hokage is my dream. Past, present, or future, nothing changes that." Tsunade was moved. Memories of her lost lover and brother surfaced. She agreed to treat Sasuke, whose body had been affected by Orochimaru's curse. As for returning to the role of Hokage, she said she needed to think it over. When Sasuke woke, he realized Naruto's power rivaled a Sannin. He remembered being bested by Itachi and clenched his teeth. Naruto returned to the seal place where Kurama rested, visiting whenever he had time to see Minato and Kushina. He told them about future things. Kushina grew eager to meet the grandchildren. She urged Naruto to marry Hinata quickly. Naruto felt awkward. In this timeline, Hinata was only 12. Kurama watched Naruto's family drama each day with frustration. Then Minato stepped close to Kurama with a serious face. He thanked Kurama for having sacrificed himself in the future to save Naruto, and asked Kurama for plans to deal with the Otsutsuki clan. Kurama said he had thought Minato and Kushina wouldn't worry about that tribe, but Naruto's presence made Kurama stop hoarding chakra. He now believed Naruto really could change the future. Minato smiled with satisfaction. As a father, he felt even more responsibility. At the walls of Sunagakure's town, Tsunade refused Orochimaru's request for treatment and decided they would deal with him themselves. Naruto sensed this through Sage Mode and immediately ran to support, because Tsunade still struggled with her fear of blood. On the battlefield, Kabuto cut Tsunade's arm and tried to control her, then threw a kunai. Naruto's chakra hand intercepted Kabuto's attack in time. His second chakra hand formed a Rasengan that struck Kabuto's gut and sent him flying hundreds of meters. Kabuto used huge chakra reserves to heal, but he eventually fell defeated. As Naruto turned, Orochimaru lengthened his neck and pierced Kushina's heart with his sword. Naruto's power dropped instantly and he collapsed. Sage Mode faded. Sasuke, seeing Naruto's mortal wound, nearly broke. Weak from recent illness and overwhelmed by shock, he sank to his knees. Yet the six-pointed Mangekyo star faintly flickered in his eyes before he passed out. Tsunade lunged to Naruto. Her intense desire to save him forced her to overcome her blood phobia. Naruto smiled and slowly rose. He drew Kusanagi from his body and told Tsunade not to worry, that such a grievous wound would heal soon. Tsunade was stunned. Shizune, surprised, accidentally dropped Sasuke from her lap. Naruto had deliberately let Orochimaru stab him to trigger Sasuke's Sharingan and help Tsunade overcome her fear of blood. Orochimaru's jaw nearly hit the ground. Naruto had changed Sasuke's path. After helping Tsunade overcome her weakness, she planned to call Katsuya, medical treatment, to heal Sasuke. Orochimaru, seeing the situation deteriorate, refused to summon Manda and quietly retreated. Before leaving, he glanced at the unconscious Sasuke. The newly visible Mangekyo Sharingan only made Orochimaru more obsessed. Sasuke's talent exceeded Naruto's. He praised Naruto's strength, but insisted that Sasuke's talent would ultimately draw him to Orochimaru's side. Naruto remained unusually calm and said, "Whatever happens, Sasuke will always be Sasuke." He then carried the unconscious Sasuke into the village. Tsunade examined the heavenly curse mark on Sasuke's forehead and felt a chilling, strange breath, Orochimaru's chakra. Naruto smiled and told Jiraiya it was Orochimaru's gift, left for Sasuke, a huge store of natural energy. If used properly, it could advance Sasuke's power. Jiraiya stared in surprise. How did this child know about natural energy? Sasuke suddenly opened his eyes, crying out in pain and roaring about how Orochimaru dared to stab Naruto. His consciousness still clung to the moment Orochimaru pierced Naruto's heart. Naruto, deeply moved by Sasuke's concern for him, leaned in and whispered, "Calm down, Sasuke. I'm fine." Naruto's words fell like a bright drop into Sasuke's dark heart. The black pupils slowly changed back into the Mangekyo six-pointed star. The curse's turmoil subsided. Sasuke fell into peaceful sleep. Jiraiya, observing silently, had already guessed why Orochimaru was so interested in Sasuke. Those eyes were extraordinary. The battle at the Stone Village finally ended. Tsunade returned and became the 5th Hokage, and as promised she gave Naruto her support. Because of Naruto's recent outstanding deeds, she seriously announced that she might appoint him to Konoha's Jonin ranks. Naruto heard this and felt a vague unease. The next moment Tsunade couldn't help but smile. Though protocol required Naruto's promotion to be gradual, and a shinobi still had to rise above Genin level slowly. The Otsutsuki threat was far worse even than fighting Orochimaru. In his previous life Naruto remained a Genin until he became Hokage. This time, everything had to change faster. Rather than worrying about promotion to Jonin, Naruto's main concern was what path Sasuke would choose, because in his previous life, this was exactly when Sasuke ran off to Orochimaru. At Orochimaru's base, the damage Naruto's Rasengan caused forced Orochimaru to prematurely activate a sealing jutsu. Before that, though, Orochimaru studied the secrets of a death god sealing technique, combining the experience of failing to Edo Tensei Minato with recently acquired research. Donning a mask, he freed Minato's soul from the seal and then activated a Fuin Jutsu that rebirthed him, effectively granting himself a way to Edo Tensei Minato later. In the sealing space, Kurama and Minato looked up, stunned, as they felt their bodies inexplicably lighten. Something had been released. After Orochimaru's successful reincarnation, he sent the Sound 4 to find Sasuke as before. Sasuke, waking, remembered the day he met Itachi and realized Itachi's target was Kurama within Naruto. He vowed that before Naruto could be captured he would kill Itachi. Even though Naruto was now powerful, there would be a time when he rested. This time Sasuke swore he would never let Itachi take away the person he cared about most. He would gain power by any means. When Orochimaru returned, he dispatched the Sound 4 to bring Sasuke back from Konoha. The four swaggered, intent on teaching Sasuke a lesson. But Sasuke suddenly awakened his Mangekyo Sharingan, used Genjutsu, and took control of them. He captured one and demanded to know Orochimaru's intent. After hearing Orochimaru explain his plan to make Sasuke stronger, Sasuke thought for a moment and hardened his resolve. Before Orochimaru captured Naruto, Sasuke decided he must kill Itachi first. He released the others from Genjutsu and told them to wait outside the village. He would go with them. Before leaving, Sasuke stood on a height and looked back at Konoha. The village was large but held no place for him. Gathering his last ties, Sasuke left Konoha with the Sound 4. Naruto had already sensed this with Sage Mode. Though he could have easily brought Sasuke back by force, after living another life he chose to respect Sasuke's decision. But he needed to settle a few things first, so he began to follow them. Kidomaru detected traps set along the route and sped up. By the time Naruto reached them, Kimimaro had already taken Sasuke. Without a word, Naruto unleashed a barrage of Rasengan and struck the four together. Even after they activated their curse marks, they lay gravely wounded. Seriously injured, Jugo transformed his body and fully recovered. Naruto advised them not to resist uselessly. He did not want to kill them. But the Sound 4 were fanatically loyal to Orochimaru. They used their remaining chakra to activate a space-time ninjutsu, reverse summoning. Their souls separated from their bodies and appeared within a sealed barrier. The Sound 4 smiled. The barrier could not be broken from inside. Even if Naruto defeated their bodies, their souls would be trapped and eventually die from being separated too long. Naruto couldn't help but smile. My body contains many sons. Suddenly two hands rested on his shoulders. Minato and Kushina, whose souls had been drawn into the seal by that jutsu, had appeared as well. The Sound Ninja could hardly believe it. How could such Konoha-level power show up here? Outside the barrier, Kurama controlled Naruto's body and quickly located the precise seal point using sensory detection. Kurama complained that Naruto had been careless but was glad to breathe fresh air again. Inside the barrier, Minato flashed a Rasengan and with a dance of the hard style move defeated the four. Naruto shouted that his father was amazing, then Kurama broke the seal from outside. The Sound 4 dissolved into points of light and vanished. Minato and the other two souls returned to Naruto's body. Kurama then handed control of the body back to Naruto. Next was the pursuit of Sasuke. Naruto soon caught Kimimaro in a grassy field. Kimimaro was no match for Naruto. Naruto praised his devotion to Orochimaru and fought him to the end. Finally he arrived at the Valley of the End where Sasuke waited. He realized now that Tog no Jutsu wouldn't work on Sasuke and that Orochimaru was a superb teacher. Sasuke had trained under him for 3 years and improved in both taijutsu and ninjutsu. Naruto had come this time with only one request. He would give Sasuke 3 years. After 3 years he would find him and bring him back. Sasuke smiled faintly, waved goodbye in resignation, and walked away with the Sound 4. Naruto watched him go and returned alone to the village. Back in Konoha, he suddenly felt Sasuke's chakra again and sensed something was wrong. Other versions of Sasuke and Boruto from different futures had also been sent to this world. Using Sage Mode, Naruto immediately located both of them. Father and son soon met on the road. Naruto called out excitedly to Boruto, but he immediately realized something odd. Sasuke asked how Naruto knew Boruto's name. Panic rose in Naruto. Just then Jiraiya passed by chased by townspeople, and Naruto took advantage of the distraction to escape. Sasuke watched Naruto run, thoughtful and uneasy. The more he thought, the stranger it felt, so he called to Boruto and started following behind, searching. They unexpectedly encountered Itachi and Kisame near Konoha. Boruto, confused, asked who they were. Sasuke answered quietly, "Akatsuki members, the ones you read about in books." Boruto was stunned. These were the villains of the Shippuden era. Kisame, sizing up their odd clothing, prepared to introduce himself. Itachi immediately recognized a transformation jutsu and detected the stranger's disguise. Seeing Boruto's headband, Kisame realized they were Konoha shinobi, and said to prevent the plan from being exposed, they should just put Boruto to sleep. Itachi had been watching the figure in black and his smile widened, his eyes were hidden in it. Kisame readied Samahata and prepared to cut Sasuke's head. Boruto panicked, grabbed a kunai, and readied to fight. But Itachi stopped Kisame, telling him to watch carefully. Fighting might bring more Konoha ninjas. Kisame calmed. Looking closely, he realized Sasuke actually looked like Itachi. The Sharingan in his left eye exuded deep power. Itachi's genjutsu had been used on Kisame. Itachi stepped forward and told Sasuke, "You look like someone I know. He also lives in Konoha. If you meet him, tell him to respect himself more." After his words, Kisame left swiftly, and Sasuke's eyes filled with tears. Brothers remain brothers. Putting thoughts of Itachi aside, Sasuke and Boruto soon met Naruto at Ichiraku Ramen. The third Hokage also passed by and asked if Naruto knew the two strangers. Naruto answered yes and said he would watch them. Sasuke had been watching the third closely. In this timeline the third should have died. Did something else happen after Naruto left in his childhood? Jiraiya noticed Sasuke's deep thoughts. After Jiraiya and the third left, Sasuke asked Naruto how he knew Boruto's name. Naruto's eyes suddenly showed maturity. "I couldn't hide it from your eyes, Sasuke." In disbelief Sasuke asked, "Are you from there too?" Naruto used transformation jutsu and took on the adult Hokage form. Boruto's jaw dropped. Sasuke sighed in disappointment upon seeing the third alive. He had been suspicious for a while. Naruto looked into Sasuke's eyes and confirmed he had arrived many years before Sasuke's original return. The Otsutsuki War would come later, and Naruto hadn't yet finished his conversations. Sasuke cut him off. "Don't tell me extra things. You time playing loser." Naruto understood and asked Sasuke to come to his home. Sasuke exhaled and followed. The three went to Naruto's place. Tidier now thanks to Hinata cleaning often. Boruto examined everything with curiosity. Minato and Kushina, present in Naruto's sealed space, were the happiest. If Sasuke discovered Naruto was from the future and accepted it, Naruto would take them home. Boruto marveled at the lively house and asked if Naruto lived alone. Naruto smiled and said he had been lonely as a child. His parents had died right after his birth. Boruto quieted. Naruto, seeing Boruto's sadness, comforted him. His grandparents were very happy. Naruto gestured for a fist bump. When their fists touched, constellations rippled and Boruto suddenly found himself in a starry space. Minato emerged from that space. Boruto couldn't believe it. Having seen Minato on cards before, the real thing showed him what a perfect ninja looked like. Minato briefly introduced himself. For certain reasons he and Kushina had to remain in the ceiling space for now. Hearing Kushina's name, Boruto was about to ask who she was when someone called him from behind. "Guess who I am?" Boruto blushed. "Are you my grandma?" Kushina hugged and kissed him enthusiastically. Grandfather, grandson, and granddaughter finally met across time and space in the ceiling realm. Naruto felt deep satisfaction. After parting from future Boruto, he had again felt the long-lost father-son bond. Then an intense threat shattered the peaceful moment. Kurama warned Naruto to be alert. Sasuke sensed the danger too. He knew Otsutsuki Urashiki had arrived. Urashiki appeared above Konoha and stared down at the village, swearing he would take Kurama's chakra. Naruto knew his aim. He lured Sasuke and Boruto out of Konoha to bait Urashiki. From above, Urashiki looked down and dismissed the current Naruto as no real threat compared to the 6 paths Naruto he'd met on the battlefield. this smaller Naruto seemed easy prey. Sasuke clenched his teeth, activated Rinnegan, and readied to fight. Naruto closed the sealing gate over the 8 trigrams place, and then Urashiki suddenly cast a fishing hook at Naruto. Sasuke tried to intercept, but Urashiki fooled him. The hook passed through Naruto's chest but came out empty. The experienced Sasuke immediately recognized Naruto's trickery. This was time manipulating Naruto. To handle the hook, he considered using sealing jutsu, but that would limit Kurama's power. Sasuke glanced toward the cliff. He only had enough chakra left for one Susanoo slam. He resolved to buy Naruto time. Naruto suddenly offered his fist and told Sasuke to bump it. Laughing, Naruto claimed to have as much chakra as he wanted, placed a hand on his stomach, and reopened the seal. Sasuke's chakra bar instantly refilled and he relaxed, letting out an involuntary laugh. For the first time since marrying Sakura and all the upheaval of Shippuden, he felt fully alive. "Go teach him a lesson, Sasuke," Naruto said, and activated Sage Mode. Sasuke, confident, already had Chidori ready. He intended to finish it himself. Naruto's Rasengan and Sasuke's Chidori struck Urashiki from both sides. Urashiki panicked and transformed into a blue Rinnegan form, generating red paper talismans with his eye power. Sasuke immediately used Shindora Tensei to gather the scattered paper talismans and sealed them with Chibaku Tensei. Urashiki screamed in disbelief. How could this kid be so powerful? He struggled and swallowed the chakra ball he'd been carrying. Cracks appeared on the surface of Chibaku Tensei and a white-clad Urashiki burst out. He vowed to make Sasuke taste his own attack. Jiraiya arrived at the scene and asked Naruto whom they were fighting. He also saw Sasuke's eyes, both Sharingan and Rinnegan. Naruto summarized. The attacker was Urashiki, seeking Kurama's chakra. He asked Jiraiya to trust Sasuke as much as he trusted him. Urashiki launched an Eagle Shield lightning strike. Sasuke countered with lightning and the attacks clashed. Jiraiya grabbed a Rasengan and attacked from Urashiki's blind spot, but Urashiki avoided it by seeing the future. Naruto explained that Urashiki could rewind time by a few seconds, a difficult power, but Naruto knew its weakness from living another life. He signaled Gameken, who trapped Urashiki and pressured him with many shadow clone jutsu. Urashiki had to keep rewinding time, and the strain made him cough up blood from breathing toxic gas. Seizing the moment, Naruto leapt in, ripped Urashiki's blue Rinnegan eyes out, and asked Chiraya to seal them in a scroll for future use. Without his Rinnegan, Urashiki was toothless. Naruto and Boruto's combined Rasengan finished him. At Ichiraku, Uncle Tochi frowned and then smiled toward the direction where Urashiki vanished. Boruto asked if Urashiki was truly destroyed. Sasuke checked with his Rinnegan and nodded. The threat was finally over. Naruto took Boruto home to recover while Jiraiya kept Sasuke back with an important request. "You are Uchiha Sasuke, right?" Sasuke froze. Jiraiya, who'd heard rumors of Orochimaru, hadn't expected Sasuke to be this powerful. Laughing, Jiraiya told Sasuke to calm down. His recent unique experiences had moved him. He asked Sasuke if he would allow Jiraiya to erase some of his and Naruto's memories, but after seeing Naruto's recent feats, Jiraiya wondered if those memories might one day help the boy. Sasuke nodded in agreement. Instead of worrying about Jonin rank, Naruto was far more concerned about which path Sasuke would choose, because in his previous life this was the moment Sasuke ran to Orochimaru. At Orochimaru's base, damage from Naruto's Rasengan forced Orochimaru to trigger a sealing jutsu earlier than planned. Before activating it, he studied a secret death god sealing technique, mixing the memory of his failed Edo Tensei attempt on Minato with newly acquired research. Donning the death mask, he freed Minato's soul from the seal and then performed a Fuin jutsu to grant himself a new life. Minato's spirit was drawn into the ground and returned to the Pure Land. This meant Orochimaru might Edo Tensei Minato in the future. In the sealing space, Kurama and Minato looked up in shock as they felt something lift from their bodies. After Orochimaru's successful reincarnation, he once again sent the Sound 4 to retrieve Sasuke. Awake and thinking about the day he met Itachi, Sasuke realized Itachi's target was Kurama within Naruto. Determined, He vowed to kill Itachi before Itachi could seize Naruto. Even though Naruto was now powerful, there would be times he rested. Sasuke swore he'd never again let someone take the person he cared about most. He would gain power by any means. The Sound Four swaggered toward Konoha to fetch Sasuke. But Sasuke suddenly activated his Mangekyo Sharingan, used Genjutsu, and took control of them. He questioned Orochimaru's aims and, after hearing how Orochimaru would make him stronger, Sasuke hardened his resolve. Before Orochimaru captured Naruto, he would kill Itachi. He freed the others, told them to wait outside the village, and left with the Sound Four. Standing once more before Konoha, Sasuke took one last look. Konoha was large, but had no place for him. Then he departed. Naruto had already sensed Sasuke's departure with Sage Mode. Though he could have easily dragged Sasuke back, having lived another life, he chose to respect Sasuke's decision. He followed them to keep an eye on things and to make sure certain promises were kept. Kidomaru detected traps and sped the group onward. By the time Naruto reached them, Kimimaro had already taken Sasuke. Naruto unleashed a barrage of Rasengan and struck all four sound ninja at once. Even after activating their curse marks, they lay severely wounded. Jugo transformed himself and recovered fully. Naruto warned them not to resist uselessly. He didn't want to kill. But the Sound Four were fanatically loyal to Orochimaru and used their last chakra to cast a space-time reverse summoning. Their souls separated from their bodies and were sealed within a barrier. Smiling, they believed no one could break it from the inside. Even if their bodies were defeated, their souls would remain trapped and die from prolonged separation. Naruto smiled inwardly. There are many suns inside my body. Suddenly 2 hands rested on his shoulders. Minato and Kushina's spirits, drawn into the seal, had appeared. The Sound Ninja couldn't believe Konoha-level power had shown up there. Outside the barrier, Kurama took control of Naruto's body and quickly located the seal point with sensory detection. Kurama complained about Naruto's carelessness but was thrilled to breathe fresh air again. Inside the barrier, Minato unleashed a flash Rasengan and, with skillful moves, defeated the Sound Four. Naruto cheered that his father was amazing. Kurama broke the barrier from outside. The Sound Four dissolved into points of light and vanished while Minato and the other souls returned to Naruto's body. Kurama returned control of the body to Naruto. Next, pursue Sasuke. Shortly afterward, Naruto cornered Kimimaro in a meadow. Kimimaro was no match. Naruto praised his devotion to Orochimaru and fought him all the way. Finally he reached the Valley of the End and confronted Sasuke. He realized Tak no Jutsu wouldn't pull Sasuke back this time, and that Orochimaru had been an excellent teacher. Sasuke had trained for 3 years and improved dramatically. So Naruto came with one request. He would give Sasuke 3 years. After 3 years he would come find him and bring him home. Sasuke smiled faintly, waved goodbye, and left with the Sound Four. Naruto watched him disappear and returned to the village alone. Back in Konoha, Naruto suddenly felt another chakra signature. There were other Sasukes and a Boruto from different futures in this world. Using Sage Mode he tracked them immediately. Father and son met on the road. Naruto called to Boruto with excitement, but sensed something wrong. Sasuke asked how Naruto knew Boruto's name. Panic flared in Naruto. Luckily Jiraiya happened by, chased by villagers, creating a distraction that let Naruto slip away. Sasuke watched Naruto run, puzzled. The more he thought, the stranger it felt. He called Boruto and started following. They bumped into Itachi and Kisame near Konoha. Boruto asked who they were. Sasuke quietly said, "Akatsuki, those villains you read about." Boruto was stunned. Kisame, sizing them up, was ready to introduce himself. Itachi recognized a transformation jutsu and the disguised pair. Seeing Boruto's headband, Kisame realized they were Konoha shinobi. To avoid exposing the plan, Kisame suggested putting Boruto to sleep, but Itachi stopped him and studied the figure in black. Itachi's smile widened, his eyes were hidden. He warned Kisame to hold back so more Konoha ninjas wouldn't arrive. Kisame calmed. Looking closely, Kisame realized Sasuke looked like Itachi. A deep power emanated even from his left eye. Itachi then addressed Sasuke. "You look like someone I know who lives in Konoha." If you meet him, tell him to respect himself." His words touched Sasuke. Tears sprang to his eyes. Brothers remain brothers. Soon Naruto, Sasuke, and Boruto met at Ichiraku. The third Hokage passed by and asked Naruto if he knew the pair. Naruto said he would keep an eye on them. Sasuke kept glancing at the third. In this timeline, the third shouldn't be alive. What changed after Naruto left as a child? Jiraiya noticed Sasuke's deep thought. After the third and Jiraiya left, Sasuke confronted Naruto about how he knew Boruto's name. Naruto's eyes grew serious. "I couldn't hide it from your eyes, Sasuke." Sasuke asked incredulously, "You're from there too?" Naruto used transformation jutsu and assumed an adult Hokage's form. Boruto's jaw dropped. Sasuke, already suspicious, finally understood Naruto had arrived years earlier than expected. Naruto confirmed he'd come many years before and hadn't finished his mission against the Otsutsuki. Sasuke barked, "Don't tell me extra things, you time-tinkering loser." Naruto took him home, and the three went to Naruto's tidy place, thanks to Hinata. Boruto examined everything in wonder. Minato and Kushina, present in Naruto's ceiling space, were the happiest people there. If Sasuke learned and accepted that Naruto was from the future, Naruto planned to introduce them. Boruto asked if Naruto lived alone. Naruto smiled and explained his parents had died soon after his birth. Seeing Boruto's sadness, Naruto comforted him. His grandparents were very happy. He offered a fist bump. When they touched, constellations rippled and Boruto found himself in a starry space. Minato emerged. Boruto was stunned to meet the real thing. Minato introduced himself briefly and explained that for certain reasons he and Kushina had to remain in the ceiling space for now. When Boruto heard Kushina's name, he was about to ask who she was. Then someone called from behind, teasing, "Guess who I am?" Boruto blushed. Kushina hugged and kissed him enthusiastically. Grandfather, grandson, and granddaughter met across time and space. Naruto felt deep satisfaction. After parting with future Boruto, he again felt the long-missed father-son bond. Suddenly an intense evil shattered the peace. Kurama warned Naruto to stay alert. Sasuke sensed the threat too. Urashiki of the Otsutsuki had arrived above Konoha, eyeing the village and swearing to claim Kurama's chakra. Naruto knew the baiting plan. He lured Sasuke and Boruto outside Konoha. Urashiki dismissed this Naruto as no match for the six paths Naruto he'd met on the battlefield. Sasuke clenched his teeth, activated Rinnegan, and readied himself. Urashiki cast a fishing hook at Naruto. Sasuke tried to stop it, but Urashiki tricked him. The hook seemed to pass through Naruto's chest and come out empty. Sasuke, experienced in battle, recognized Naruto's time manipulation trick. Sealing the hook would limit Kurama's power, so Sasuke needed another way. He looked toward a cliff. His chakra was enough for one Susanoo slam. That was all he could spare to buy Naruto time. Naruto suddenly offered his fist and told Sasuke to bump it. Laughing, Naruto claimed he had all the chakra he wanted, placed a hand on his stomach, and reopened the seal. Sasuke's chakra bar instantly refilled and he relaxed. For the first time in a long while he felt whole again. Naruto told Sasuke to go teach Urashiki a lesson. Sasuke, confident, readied Chidori. Naruto's Rasengan and Sasuke's Chidori struck Urashiki together. Urashiki transformed, spawning red paper talismans with his eye power. Sasuke used Shindora Tensai to gather them and sealed them with Chibaku Tensai. Urashiki, enraged, swallowed the chakra ball he'd been carrying and cracked the Chibaku Tensai open. He burst out in white robes and swore to make Sasuke taste his own attack. Jiraiya arrived and, stunned, asked what they were fighting. He saw Sasuke's Sharingan and Rinnegan and listened as Naruto explained Urashiki wanted Kurama's chakra. Jiraiya trusted Sasuke and joined the battle. Urashiki's time rewinding made him hard to hit. Naruto had learned its weakness from his past life. He signaled Gameiken, who trapped Urashiki and pressed him with dozens of shadow clone jutsu. The strain forced Urashiki to cough up blood. Seizing the moment, Naruto ripped out Urashiki's blue Rinnegan eyes, had Chiraya seal them into a scroll, and then, without eyes, Urashiki was finished by Naruto and Boruto's combined Rasengan. At Ichiraku, Uncle Tochi noticed the disturbance and smiled in the direction Urashiki vanished. Boruto asked if Urashiki was truly gone. Sasuke checked with his Rinnegan and nodded. Naruto took Boruto home while Jiraiya kept Sasuke back for a surprising question. "You are Uchiha Sasuke, right?" Sasuke froze. Jiraiya, moved by Naruto's actions, asked if Sasuke would allow him to erase some memories of Naruto and himself. He thought keeping those memories might one day help Naruto. Sasuke agreed. They thanked Jiraiya and said farewell. The next morning the time for parting arrived. Naruto prepared gifts for Boruto and Himawari and advised Boruto not to live on Thunderburgers. Eat more nutritious ramen instead. He intended to warn Sasuke about Akatsuki's secrets and the path of the animal, but Sasuke stopped him and simply said goodbye. Naruto smiled knowingly. He trusted Sasuke would prepare on his own. After saying goodbye to his son and brother, Naruto set out to gather strength. He and Jiraiya began a 3-year training journey. In the first 2 years Naruto had already collected chakra from 5-tailed beasts. The 2 tails, 3 tails, 4 tails, 5 tails, and 7 tails. Only the 1 tail and 8 tails remained. Because of Naruto's covert interference, Akatsuki's plan to hunt tailed beasts had started earlier than intended. Nagato sent Itachi and Kisame to check the 1 tail's location in Kumogakure. Meanwhile Naruto and Jiraiya sneaked into the Thundercloud Canyon. A powerful man in black singing on the training ground stepped out. Killer Bee Naruto greeted him and Bee was surprised a Konoha ninja had come to such a forbidden place. Kurama suddenly called the 1 tail. Both tailed beasts tensed. In mental space the memories of both Jinchuriki surfaced, and Naruto and Killer Bee also appeared there. Killer Bee saw Kurama behind Naruto and admitted Kurama's majestic form made him the most hated tailed beast. But then he sensed chakra from other tailed beasts inside Kurama and asked why they had agreed to give power to this child. Naruto stepped forward and offered a fist bump. Initially Bee hesitated, but the 1 tail encouraged him to accept. Bee wanted to know why the other tailed beasts had entrusted Naruto. After seeing Naruto's past life memories, hashing through sage revelations, Otsutsuki attacks, and other events, Killer Bee was moved and gladly gave Naruto his chakra as well. At the canyon floor Kisame tried to interrogate a captured ninja about Killer Bee's lair, but the prisoner stayed silent until Itachi forced the truth with Genjutsu. With the location known, they snuck into Bee's home. When Killer Bee showed Naruto around, many crows suddenly flew out and Naruto sensed familiar chakra. Kisame and Itachi emerged as well. Itachi's Sharingan had 3 tomo already. Naruto told Bee he would deal with Itachi and that Itachi could be instrumental against the Otsutsuki, but warned that Itachi's decisive fight with Sasuke was coming soon. He had to be preserved. After hearing Naruto's memories, Killer Bee understood instantly and told Kisame to retreat to the rear hills. Itachi opened his shirt, ready to fight with full force. Naruto was about to speak when Itachi's eyes shifted into a black and white realm, Tsukuyomi. Itachi warned Naruto. Time and space inside Tsukuyomi were under his control and he expected Naruto to be frightened. But Naruto stood calmly. Itachi cautioned him not to underestimate that jutsu. Naruto replied he never underestimated anyone, especially Itachi, Sasuke's brother. Mention of Sasuke made a deep change in Itachi's expression. Naruto knew Itachi was angry that he had allowed Sasuke to go to Orochimaru, so Itachi used Tsukuyomi to scold him. Naruto reassured Itachi, promising Sasuke would be okay and that he had arranged with Tsunade not to label Sasuke a missing nin for 3 years. Itachi was moved. Naruto must have worked hard to convince Konoha's high officials. He asked why Naruto did so much for Sasuke. Naruto replied firmly that Sasuke was always his brother. Itachi's lips curved in a faint smile. Suddenly countless crows poured from Itachi's body. Naruto felt a bad premonition and asked Itachi to stop releasing them. He told Itachi he had 100 ways to bring Sasuke back. Before Naruto finished, Itachi stuffed his crows back into his mouth. Rules of the Tsukuyomi space held firm. Itachi then chastised Naruto for thinking himself always right and ignoring Sasuke's growth. If Sasuke ever killed his beloved brother, how deeply would he hurt? What Sasuke needed wasn't power, he needed his brother. Naruto's emotions flared, golden chakra spilled out, and cracks formed in the Tsukuyomi space. Itachi was stunned that Naruto knew the Uchiha's deep pain. Blood tears flowed from Itachi's eyes. He either cried or was expending chakra to stabilize Tsukuyomi. He asked Naruto to forgive him for being selfish once more. Naruto, enraged in the name of the future Hokage, delivered a single punch that landed on Itachi's cheek and shattered the Tsukuyomi. Back in the real world, Itachi clutched his eyes, stunned. He had never thought Naruto so powerful. Naruto told him not to be so hasty to die and asked Itachi to help defend against future enemies. Itachi didn't fully understand, but seeing Naruto's expression he believed him. Naruto knew that showing Sasuke his strength, through Itachi, might change Itachi's blind behavior. In the ceiling space, Kurama laughed delightedly at Naruto's victory. Naruto blushed but answered Kurama. Itachi got up and silently watched Naruto. This Naruto didn't resemble the 15-year-old he once knew. After a slight smile, Itachi transformed into a crow and departed. Naruto's words had planted a seed in his heart. From the hillside came a loud commotion. Killer Bee and Kisame were fighting fiercely. Killer Bee recalled losing to Kisame twice before and was ultra careful now. Transforming into a tailed beast, Bee fired a tailed beast ball at Kisame. Samahata can absorb chakra up to 6 tails levels, so it couldn't stop the beast ball. Samahata absorbed it and the ball suddenly detonated into a massive heat wave. A mushroom cloud rose over Thundercloud Canyon and set off alarms. Raikage burst from his office and raced toward Killer Bee. Naruto raced too, sensing trouble.